Once upon a time in a faraway land, there lived a very evil king and a sorcerer by his side. He doesn't like it when people worship Allah. He wanted everyone to worship him as God. One day, the sorcerer felt that he was old, and he suggested to the king to find a replacement for him because he was sick and worried that he would not be able to serve the king well. The sorcerer asked the king to bring him a young man who could replace him and then teach him magic. Then the king ordered the soldiers to bring him a young man who would be taught magic. In the middle of the journey, the young man and the soldiers met a Muslim cleric. Then the young man approached the Muslim cleric. The Muslim cleric forbade the young man from meeting the king and the witch. The young man asked, "Why was I not allowed to meet the king and the witch?" The Muslim cleric then firmly invited the young man without the soldier's knowledge, then they ran away. During their escape, the cleric and the young man helped each other and were taught useful knowledge, such as medicine and healing. At that time in the palace, the king was anxious because the young man he had expected did not come. So the king ordered his blind servant to prepare his equipment. The king felt sorry for the blind servant and ordered him to treat his illness. The king heard that there was a talented young man and a Muslim cleric who could cure diseases. The king came to see him, bringing his blind servant, hoping that the servant could be cured. The young man greeted the king and said that all illnesses come from Allah and also all healing comes from Allah. If the king believes in Allah, then the young man will help the king. If the king does not believe in Allah, then he will reject him. The king was angry with the young man because the king felt that he was God and did not worship the king. Then the young man was arrested along with the Muslim cleric and his followers. They were taken to the palace to be punished. The king asked, "Is it true that you are the young man who can cure any disease?" The young man replied that healing only comes from Allah and only Allah can cure illness. Hearing the young man's words, the king was very angry, then tortured the young man in front of the palace residents. The Muslim cleric also defended the young man, saying, "O king, have faith in Allah." Seeing the Muslim cleric coming before him, the king called his blind servant and killed him. The king joked that the servant could not work because he was blind. The king wanted to fix it so he could work again. The king only saw that the servant was just a slave. If he was dead, he could not be used again. Then the king turned threatening and said, "Worship me. I am the most powerful. I am the king." The Muslim cleric shouted in refusal, saying, "Believe in Allah." The king became angry and killed the Muslim cleric in the presence of his followers. Then the king said to the young man, "Have you seen that I am the one who is worthy of worship?" The young man remained patient and remained steadfast in his faith in Allah. The king asked the young man again, "Will you worship me?" The young man replied that only Allah is worthy of worship. The king was angry and then ordered his soldiers to take the young man to the highest mountain until he acknowledged that the king was worthy of worship. On the journey, the soldiers and young men had difficulty climbing the steep mountain. After reaching the peak, the soldiers asked the young man, "Do you worship the king, or do you still hold fast to your faith?" Then the young man prayed to Allah, "O Allah, save me from them according to your will." Suddenly the mountain shook and rolled over the king's soldiers. They all died. The young man returned to the king and said, "Believe in Allah, O king." The king was stunned and said, "Where are the soldiers who escorted you?" The young man replied, "Allah Ta'ala has saved me from them." Then the king again ordered the soldiers to sentence the young man to be drowned in the middle of the sea until he acknowledged that the king was worthy of worship. Arriving in the middle of the ocean, the soldiers tried to punish the young man by drowning him until he admitted that the king was God. The young man again prayed to Allah, "O Allah, save me from them according to your will." Suddenly, the boat they were on sank. Only the young man survived. The young man returned to the palace and met the king and said, "Have faith in Allah, O king." The king was stunned again and said, "Where are the soldiers who escorted you?" The young man replied, "Allah Ta'ala has saved me from them." Then he said, "Indeed, you will not be able to kill me until you do what I command you. If you do what I tell you, then you can kill me. Otherwise, you will never be able to kill me." The king asked, "What does it say?" The young man answered, "You must gather the people in a field, then you tie me to a tree trunk, then take an arrow from my bag, then say, 'In the name of Allah, the Rabb of this young man.' If you do that, then you will be able to kill me." Then the king did this and put an arrow in his bow, and then he threw it and said, "In the name of Allah, Rabb of this young man." Then the king shot an arrow that hit the young man's temple. Then the young man put his hand on the part that was hit by the arrow and then died. Then the monk's followers and people who witnessed the incident said, "We believe in the Rabb of this young man." Then the king ordered his soldiers to prepare digging equipment to make trenches and fill them with wood and light fires in them, saying, "Whoever wants to leave their religion, let them live, and if not, throw them into the trenches." They They pulled and pushed each other until finally a woman came carrying her baby who was still being breastfed, as if she was afraid of falling into the fire. Suddenly, the baby she was carrying spoke, "Be patient, my mother. You are indeed on the right track." Allah cursed those who made the ditch. Then all those who believed in Allah were thrown into the ditch. This story teaches us that a person who believes can sacrifice himself to uphold monotheism, so that humans will believe in Allah alone, as in this story. The young man was willing to die sacrificing himself, so that the steadfastness and truth of his preaching would be witnessed by many people, so that people would believe in Allah, the Lord of the young man, and the Lord of us all, namely Allah.